Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Duelist Nexus is upon us, and there's a surprising lack of lore to talk about here. It's actually been the biggest thing I look forward to when a new set gets released, but at the moment there's only a single Albaz lore card that doesn't even name drop Ice Jades in it, despite the fact that mechanically it fits right in with them. And you know, the absolutely kickin' art. And with no new archetypes that could feasibly carry a story in this set, the only thing we can really talk about is the Visas story, which appears to wrap up nearly all the loose ends, while dangling one last one in true Yu-Gi-Oh card lore fashion. In fact, for those of you just joining us, let's do a bit of a recap. Visas Starfrost, intergalactic warrior of, well, not even they know, was able to absorb their fellow emotion clones, but that just caused a psychedelic cascade failure, transforming them into the monstrous, vicious Astrolaud, which always makes a dramatic entrance. This moves the action to Visas' Mindscape, which is currently being attacked by Astrolaud, and is defended by the fragment of Visas that represents joy, Riemheart, taking on the form of Primeheart, protecting Calarium with its special defensive ability, and causing Astrolaud to feel very unsafe due to its multiple energy blades. The battle ended with Primeheart sacrificing itself to rid Visas of the toxic influence of Astrolaud, but what happens next in this world of boundless consciousness? That's a good question, and I'm gonna give you all the answers. First, we're gonna take a look at what the new cards do, then examine the mechanics, art, and what they're based on to get you up to date not just on these new tools, but also what's going on in the story. It's time for the Duelist Nexus Visas cards explained. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons and the fine people over at Dragon Shield. If you want to protect your cards with the strongest scales on the market that even come with their own lore while supporting the channel, use my affiliate link in the description. So what's the deal with, well, all these new cards? Well, they appear to be general use cards for anything that uses Visas Starfrost. While Vanadium seems to have become the primary home for running this level 6 tuner monster, all of the associated themes utilize them in one way or the other. So whether you're attempting to enhance your Scareclaw, Tearlaments, or Kashtira deck, or trying to jam them all into one wild mix, these cards can potentially help you out. First up, we've got a direct update to one of our 4 themes. Vanadium Trid is a level 2 Fire Fairy tuner monster with 0 attack and 1500 defense, and if you control Visas Starfrost, or a monster with 1500 attack and 2100 defense, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a Vanadium tuner from your deck, but you can only use this effect once per turn, which is a bit of a departure from the other 2, since their replacement effects are not hard once per turns. Though, since Trid turns into either of the other 2, this isn't much of an issue, especially because Trid lacks any utility effects that you could get from your other Vanadium. So honestly, the hard once per turn is only going to be an issue in very niche situations. Overall, having more names is really going to help your consistency, so even with this minor roadblock, it's nothing to get angry over. Next up is Vita Carantha, a level 8 Dark Warrior monster with 2500 attack and 2100 defense, and if any number of cards on the field are destroyed by a card effect and Visas Starfrost is on the field, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can add a Clear New World from your deck or grave to your hand. And if any number of other monsters in your possession are destroyed by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to that monster's original attack until the end of this turn. Hey, a card that actually uses the spell card we've been referencing this entire series. Neat! Vita allows for a cool play sequence where you can pop a monster to summon Visas from hand, and then since you control it, you can summon Vita from hand, grabbing you Clear New World. Then you use Clear New World, destroying Visas, to summon any level 5 or lower non-light, non-warrior monster. Its effects are negated, but with the broad range of monsters you can summon, you can grab a lot of utility pieces, ranging from tuners to monsters that have great graveyard effects, making this a stupendous card to add into Vanadium. And because it can grab Clear New World from the graveyard, you don't actually need to run more than one copy of it, which is great for anyone with a cramped main deck. The fact that Vita absorbs the whole attack from the destruction effect but only for the turn, as opposed to Visas getting half the attack when destroyed by battle but the increase is permanent, makes me want to say that Vita is the evil version of Visas, but we've actually already had at least 2 of those, so this is like the cooler, eviler Visas. Speaking of which, we have the self-actualization of our favorite Star Warrior, Visas Amritara, a level 8 Light Warrior Synchro Tuner monster with 2500 attack and 2100 defense, requiring one or more tuners and a light monster as material, just like Primeheart, though this one is 2 levels lower. This card's name becomes Visas Starfrost while in the monster zone, very important for all the effects relying on the name, and if this card is synchro summoned, you can add a spell or trap card that mentions Visas Starfrost from your deck to your hand. And during your main phase, you can destroy a monster you control. Also, for the rest of the turn, all synchro monsters you control will gain 800 attack. This is markedly less powerful than Primeheart is in battle, but something tells me that's not really the point of this card. With its ability to grab any Visas-related spell or trap card, you can grab 3 of the 4 archetypal field spells, several of their utility cards ranging from Tearlament's Heartbeat to Manadium Reframing, or probably the strongest of all, Trivakarma, which acts as targeted monster negation, a stat boost, and can then search you another Visas spell or trap card once it's in the graveyard. And that's just what you can do with the search. The monster pop for the Synchro boost gives you a great buff across all your Synchro monsters, but also enables any of your on-destruction effects. See Manadium and Vita for more details, and can be used as a rung in the ladder for bigger Synchro monsters. The level 2 Manadium tuners can turn this into Primeheart to unlock its full power, while still benefiting from the 800 point boost you got from Amritara, or grab a non-tuner and use this to make Barone. But probably the biggest revelation here is that, for the first time, we see Vsauce smile. How nice. The Worlds as 1 is a normal spell card that has you activating one of 2 effects. You either special summon a monster with 1500 attack and 2100 defense from your grave, basically the 6 Vsauce clones of Reichheart, Rhinoheart, Riseheart, Riemheart, Wind-Up Zenmaines, and Infinitrack Drag Shovel, or you shuffle 5 of your monsters from across your banished zone, face up field and or grave into your deck, those cards being 1 Visas Starfrost and 4 of the aforementioned aspects. And if you do, special summon a Visas Synchro monster from your extra deck, and this summon is treated as a Synchro summon. Now at the moment there's only Amritara to choose from, but we'll see if that changes in the future. For now, this appears to serve 2 functions: a reborn for what amounts to the best monsters in any of the associated archetypes, or as a way to access Amritara more easily in a deck that combines all the themes. An interesting idea to be sure, and I suspect it'll see play purely for its first effect, but if anyone knows how Wind-Ups combo with Kashtira, my ears are wide open. Pristine Planet's Amritara is a field spell card that you can only activate if Visas Starfrost is on the field, and once per turn, if any number of monsters you control are destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the grave or are banished, you can activate one of these effects. You either special summon one of those monsters in defense position, one tuner on the field gains attack equal to half the attack of one of those destroyed monsters, shuffle one of those destroyed monsters into the deck, and if you do, draw a card, or shuffle this card into your deck, and if you do, add a field spell card from your grave to your hand. Ooh, that is a lot of functionality for just one card. Now, you might see that activation restriction and think this card is unplayable, but remember, you can search this with Visas Amritara, which acts as Visas Starfrost, so it's actually a lot easier to deploy than you might think. As for what it can be used for, the effects are actually pretty straightforward. The best one to use in any given situation is going to depend on what the board state is. Maybe you want the destroyed monster back to shore up your defenses or keep the effect around. Maybe you need Amritara to get even bigger to run over a problem monster. Or perhaps a draw is in order. Maybe even recycling a field spell will get you back into the game. Though, notably, it doesn't specify any kind of restriction on what kind of field spell you can get, just that you have to grab it from the graveyard, so beware of any floodgate shenanigans. Look, I know they want to keep the planets pristine and all, they just got them cleaned, but locking out the grave with Necro Valley so nothing crawls back out may have been a bit much. New World Formation is a normal trap card that targets a spell or trap card in your grave that mentions Visas Starfrost and sets it to your field, and if it's a trap card or quick play spell card, you can activate it this turn. And you can banish this card from your grave, then target 3 spell or trap cards that mention Visas Starfrost, accept copies of this card, and shuffle them into the deck. Notably, the first effect doesn't have the same restriction as the second, so you can target New World Formation with the on-field effect of New World Formation, effectively having them swap places. However, because there is a hard once per turn on the effect, you can't just infinitely activate this over and over again on the same turn, so just a funny fact. This is yet another card that we can use to reset our field spells, as well as all the cool cards that I mentioned earlier that you can search off of Amritara. And because New World Formation essentially copies these cards for you with little to no time delay, you can afford to run less of them and use these as wild cards. You might actually find people running this in tier limits as a way to get back milled spells and trap cards to either use them as intended or get more value for their grave effects. And the recycling certainly isn't bad either, especially in more focused builds where you can get back your powerful engine cards. Being a trap card is devastatingly slow, but with this level of utility, there's a world of possibilities open to you. New World Full of Stars is a continuous trap card, and the first time each monster you control would be destroyed by battle each turn while you control Visas Starfrost, it is not destroyed. And during your end phase, if you control Visas Starfrost, you can target a monster in your grave and shuffle it into the deck, or if you control a Tuner Synchro monster, you can add it to your hand instead. In essence, you get to recycle a monster for free at the end of each of your turns if you have Visas, but if you have Amritara, you get to just add that monster back to your hand. And because it works on any monster, not just our Visas related ones, you can grab back on theme monsters or powerful hand traps, an especially relevant choice because this only works during your end phase, letting you prepare for a number of outcomes depending on what you think your opponent is capable of. But you're gonna have to tell me what's so new about the new World of Stars. We've seen everyone here before. This isn't a coming attractions section, this is a Smash roster. Alright, so that's all the cards. And because they're meant to be used as needed to either enhance existing themes or facilitate a big combo conglomerate, I think we should skip the usual tech pick section and move on to the lore of the cards. For a detailed rundown of what's happening so far, check out the playlist linked here for more videos on the subject, but like I said at the beginning, our story finds us with Visas, having finally defeated Vicious Astrolaud, and is at a crossroads. With all the versions combined in a single place, Visas has a tremendous amount of power at their disposal, but to what end should it be used for? Vicious Astrolaud was an example of one such path: just burn it all down. After all, every place they had visited so far was full of such fear, sadness, and hate that it didn't make much sense to make it go on. Better to just break it all down and avoid the pain. And judging from the landscape, it had already done quite a bit of work in that regard. But Astrolaud was missing a very important part, a positive to balance out the negatives: joy. Not only was it something worth living for, but it helped put all the other emotions in context, the tree filtering these feelings into little bubbly fruits. Because while these feelings have many sources, it's the idea of losing something precious that oftentimes spurns them into existence. People, places, memories. The idea of losing things that are close to our hearts like that doesn't always result in positive feelings. But these negative ones aren't inherently evil, that's just part of who we are. And if Visas gave up on everything now, what would happen to those who just wanted to keep living their lives in these strange worlds? And so, it was decided. Visas would not pick the path of destruction, but rather would create a world all their own. Harnessing the powers of Reich, Rhino, Rise, and Riem, Visas absorbed these forms into himself to become Visas Amritara, forming the Amritara system of planets, with a world modeled after the ruined Calarium in its center. This world would be a place where all the different factions, Scareclaw, Tearlament, and Castera, could live in harmony. And that's currently where we're at, but like I said, not every question has been answered. The first of which being, what in the heck is going on with Vita Carantha? They have a card here, but no representation in any of the spell or trap cards to show what their involvement even is. The only working theory I have is that Visas recalls that someone split this Star Warrior into multiple emotion clones, so Vita seems like the only candidate for having done this. Or, if not them, someone associated with them. I was initially of the opinion that this was another of the Visas forms, but on top of having an actually unique face and hairstyle, Vita also seems to have the body of the cosmos that Visas has, but Vita's is green as opposed to the purple-blue hue that we're familiar with. So it'll be on future sets to expand on how Vita fits into the whole story. There's also the matter of the two missing planets, and presumably Visas clones. In my last video on the subject, we pointed out a lot of connections between this story and the family of faiths that make up Hinduism, and a prediction I made was that we were in for 2 more worlds, and thus Visas clones. The second, which would have Kurma, and Vraha, the third. And if the story ends the way it does right now, I'd call that a pretty big missed opportunity. Thankfully though, I think we've still got some time left before we have to say goodbye to Visas. The art for pristine planet Amritara shows 7 heavenly bodies. I'm confident in saying that the collection of them can be called Amritara, though the main world in the center could also be called that, kind of like it's the planet Amritara in the Amritara system. This leaves 6 surrounding bodies with some familiar colors. Green is probably Reichphobia, red is Wraithtsoth, and purple is the new Tearlament's Perlegia, formerly Pearl Reno. This leaves us with the menacing Shadow Planet, which probably would go completely unnoticed without that menacing aura, and 2 grayed out planets almost devoid of color, and dollars to donuts, one of them is the destroyed Calirium, meaning another of the planets met with a similar destructive fate. So with the information we have left, I can only assume that the Shadow Planet is the realm of another heart that's been taken over by Vita Carantha, and while the clash of Visas and Prime Heart destroyed Calirium, Vita might have been behind the destruction of the other. In fact, I can even tell you which one is which. We've already established that each planet and its heart monsters represent one of the avatars of Vishnu, numbered in a particular order, and the planets themselves are numbered in the OCG names. So, since Pearl Reno is the first broken world, we'll start here. Then, we number all of them counterclockwise. By doing this, we get Reichphobia as 4 and Wraithtsoth as 6, which, as it turns out, lines up with their OCG names. So, assuming that this grayed out world is Calirium, it was the second planet that was destroyed, so goodbye Turtle World, and the surviving one is Vraha, so hello Boars. But what can we expect from this new antagonist? They certainly don't share the same naming convention as the rest of the Visas clones, so what gives? Thankfully, the names are a big giveaway. See, the Vedas are mildly analogous to the Christian and Jewish Bibles or Muslim Quran, but for Hindu faiths, so you can already see the connection here. In fact, it's said that by reciting the Vedas, you're regenerating the cosmos, something that Visas is doing quite a bit of right now with their newfound powers, so maybe all this caught the attention of a higher authority. Notably, the major Vedic tradition and authorities are derived from 4 major books: Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda, the last of which I feel is represented here, since the name is the closest. Each section focuses on different aspects that are used by many subcategories that are a part of the Hindu family of faiths. Rig means verses, and covers the many teachings and sutras. Yajur refers to sacrifices, and contains information on how to perform religious rites. Sma means chants, containing hymns and invocations. And Atharva contains the knowledge and traditions that would be under the purview of a local priest, and we're likely to see Vita Carantha exercise that authority very soon. Suffice it to say, Visas' journey is not over yet. The 4 Vedas are making themselves known, and I have a feeling they don't like Visas taking their own path in forming this new broken world, and are intent on finding the other hearts, forcing Visas to take on their power, and forcing the formation of another vicious Astrolaud, one even more powerful than the last, to complete the cycle and bring about this universe's version of the Kali Yuga. But I don't think that Visas, along with their newfound partnership with Rulkalos, Unicorn, and Astra, are gonna let things go without a fight. And so, that's all the information I have for you today. And so, I want to learn a thing or two about you. Is there anything about the Vsauce lore you're excited to see in the next core set, Age of Overlord? And how do you feel about my conclusions here? Any info I looked over or leaps in logic that were too fast? Let me know in the comments, I'd really love to hear what you have to say about it. Oh, and if you're a part of any lore discords, make sure you @ me on Twitter, okay? We've got a pretty cool lore community over on my Discord, but I very much doubt we make up the majority of that lore community, so I'd love to hear everyone's perspective on these things, because I feel like it makes videos like this even better, and we all learn a lot more. Today's episode was brought to you in part by Dragon Shield. When you want to protect your cards with the power of dragon scales, get some sweet lore for them, and support the channel, check out my link in the description to get started. Today's episode was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander Green Knight, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Andrew Newman, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Danny Bound, Divine Dragon Felgrand 4123, Eric, Aaron the World Breaker Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Harry, the ominous benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iskander 711, John Manji, Jordan, Julius Sneezer, Mana Charge, Marluxia is a Girl, Nathan Vig, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sammy Haim, Sir Knight JCB, Skybuster Leo, Sophie, apparently, the Fresh Prince of Con Air, the Charizard Flame, the Wizard Moose and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Almento 5010, Ariel Kersey, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Beluga Masta, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Corbinisms, Drachenwald, Emony, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, In the House Like Carpet, Inblink, Jester Designs, Kale the Dragon, Carp, Kevon Public, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Matt Simmons, Mega Combi, Michael Shimabukuro, Nadia McCarthy, Nitromo, Ruxith Sarani, Shizuka Nijimura, Star-Lord 777, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, Tucker Ordorn, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to be a part of these credits, help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, help keep the channel going, and participate in monthly custom card reviews, check out my Patreon link in the description, or consider becoming a YouTube member down below. And if you'd like to catch up on the Visas lore, check out the playlist found here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. That's right, Moby. Australoud sucks. He's a little asshole. Very strong, but kind of an asshole. Boo, 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 boo. Coming to hang out? Coming to hang out while I'm recording? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. It's always when I'm recording, it's like, Dad's talking. I gotta go hang out over here. I want Dad to talk to me. Always, I'm in this room petting you all the time. I'm very sorry I have to cut all this out. I'm very sorry.